Hello everyone. Today I'm making a video for the new beginners working with resin, and I'm going to go over just some of the stuff that I've learned while working with it and things that work, things that don't. So this is the resin I'm using. It's the J Diction, and it's the high gloss resin. It is not a deep pour resin. We're not doing anything deep pour today. We don't really need to get in that too much. This is just a high gloss resin, part A and part B. All resins come in two parts usually. And this is the mold we're going to do. It's a very thin mold. It's not even an inch thick, and it's perfect for the new beginner because it's simple. So we have some fun add-ins. I've got mica powders and I've got some chameleon powders, and the chameleon powders are so cool. They stick to the mold, and we're going to be painting it on the mold today. And they are just so glittery. They're not even glittery. They're like pearlescent-y. I don't even know the word. Shiny, colorful, I don't know. Anyway, so with any two-part resin, you have to follow the mixing directions. So with this type of resin, this is the J Diction High Gloss, and it's equal parts A, equal parts B. So we're not going to mix up a whole bunch because this is just, a small little project. If you need to know exactly how much resin to use for your mold, I recommend filling it with water and then measuring how much water it holds, and that's how much resin you're going to need. And then just make sure your mold is nice and perfectly dry before you stick any resin in it, because any moisture in resin, bad news. So that was part A that I put in there, and I measured it out with my little measuring cup. And then this is part B, and you definitely want to do equal parts. Some resins are by volume, some resins are by weight. So this one is by volume. So I put 120 mils total. So it's 60 and 60. That's how much this little cute cup holds. And I'm just making sure to scrape the sides off, get all of that resin off of there. We don't want to waste resin. Resin's not cheap. We don't want to waste it. So I'm scraping it off my little thing, and I am mixing it up. So I have a close-up here so you can kind of see when the resin isn't mixed, it is kind of foggy, it's kind of swirly. You can kind of see, my camera doesn't do it justice, you can kind of see that it's not quite mixed. You can see that there's swirlies and it just doesn't look smooth. So I'm going to mix it up very slowly. So this is not sped up, and I could have probably stirred a little bit slower even. The slower you stir, the less bubbles you're going to incorporate inside of that resin. And here's another look at, how it's not clear. It's kind of swirly. You can see little swirls. We want to get rid of all that. We want to stir until it is incredibly clear. You can see right through it. If it's a little foggy or if there's some little stringies in there, just keep mixing. Just keep going very slowly, and it'll work out. The more you mix, the better. So then here is what we're going to do with our mold. This part is sped up because I'm sure you don't want to watch this whole thing. So this part is sped up. I decided to just have some fun. The thing that I love about this is you can just have fun, do whatever you want, and it's really always going to look cool. So these are the chameleon powders from Just Resin, and I will link them below. I'm using the blue and the fuchsia here, and I wanted to kind of go for kind of like a shooting star type thing. Like you're looking at the sky and there's some fun shooting stars. And the silicone molds do really, really well holding glitters down, holding the chameleon powders down. So you can just paint your molds, and the resin will, when it cures, take it off the mold and it'll peel it back and it'll be perfect. So I painted with the chameleon powders however I felt, and then I'm going to line it with black. Line it? I'm going to back it with black, because black looks amazing against the chameleon powders. So this is just some Let's Resin mica powder that I put in there. And with any mica powder, any dry ingredient, you want to stir it up as good as possible. If you don't stir it in, then you're going to see little pockets of powder that didn't get incorporated, and that doesn't look too great. So make sure you do scrape the sides, mix it around. And then I decided to use some of this glow-in-the-dark glitter that I have. I think I got it at Hobby Lobby or Michael's, one of the two. And I'm trying to make it kind of glow in the dark. I don't know why. Maybe for some a late night date night in the dark. I don't know. But I just thought it would look really cool if around the shooting stars, it was glow in the dark. So I painted some of that on there too. In the end, it didn't, I mean, it worked, you can see, but I mean, who's going to drink wine in the dark? I don't know. Let me know if you drink wine in the dark. But, and then I added some holographic glitter because I wanted it to kind of look like stars in the background. That was too much. Don't add that much. I love glitter. I absolutely love glitter. And I use it anytime I can. However, sometimes too much is too much. And that was a little too much. I wanted it to look like a nice dispersing of stars. And glitter falls to the bottom, usually in resin. And so I should have known that that was too much. And I probably did know that was too much. But you're going for it anyway. It's going to look great either way. So when you pour resin, if you incorporated any bubbles, which you probably did, unless you have like a pressure pot to get the bubbles out, which if you're new starting, you probably don't, just try to do your best and hold it up high, and then zhuzh it around a little bit, squish it, do some squidgy widgy, as Steve McDonald would say. If you watch him, his shows are great. I watched him constantly when I started with resin, and I learned so much from him. I can link him in the bottom too. And so I'm taking a toothpick or something, and I'm going around the edges just to get any bubbles that get caught. Bubbles sometimes will get caught in the edges, and you just kind of got to go around and get those little things out. Paying close attention to corners and things where bubbles can just land and get caught. And then I do clean up with a baby wipe. It seems to work really well and clean resin really well. And then any small little bubbles that pop up, a lighter is the best, especially for silicone molds. You don't want to use a torch. Don't use a torch. It'll ruin your molds. It'll ruin your project. Use a lighter. And then I always put something over my projects because my craft room doesn't have a ceiling and it's kind of dusty and things fall from the ceiling all the time, like that big chunk that would have gotten in my resin if I didn't have that on there. So definitely cover your resin with something. Those are just like picnic table cover food things that I got from Amazon. I'll try to link those too. And this is all cured. This is 24 hours later. Always follow the directions on your resin. Each resin is a little different. Each resin has a different curing time, especially deep pour from regular. Like, just pay attention. Just read before you use. That's the best advice that I can give you. So I'm demolding this right now. This is my absolute favorite part. You will get totally hooked after you demold your first project. Now you can see I used too much glitter. There was too much. It wasn't an even dispersing of stars. It was like we're in space. We can't see nothing but stars. And then maybe there's some cool colors of shootingness. I don't know. Anyway, don't put as much glitter in there, but look how cool those chameleon powders look. Oh my goodness. I just love the way they shine and the way the resin picks it up off of that mold. Anything you paint on there. If you know how to paint and you can draw, you can even use markers, like paint markers on your molds, and the resin will pick that up as well. So of course, resin shrinks as it cures. So there's some sharp edges sometimes if you don't fill your mold up all the way. So I didn't fill my mold up totally to the tippity top, and there's some sharpness on the edge. So this deburring tool from Amazon is really, really handy. And it does take some practice to get used to make it nice and smooth. But once you figure out how to use this thing, it really is a lifesaver. If you don't like cutting things off or using it, you could always do a top coat of clear if you really wanted to. But it just looks so great just the way it is. And here it is on some wine. And I just think this is a wonderful project, especially if you're a wine drinker and you want to have your own personal touch in your kitchen, and you can say, look at this, I made it, woo. And it's pretty. So come on back and watch some more if you like this video. Happy resining.